Hi, I'm Gary.
And I'm Laura.
In our previous video, we showed how to install the RecPro 13.5K low-profile air conditioner. While it was super quiet and it did a great job of cooling the rig, we weren't exactly happy with the humidity levels at night.
This video is to give you an update on that communication with RecPro. Hopefully this will be helpful for those who already have this unit, as well as folks who are thinking of purchasing this air conditioner.
Well, since we are both engineers, and we're going to really geek out on you now.
Just a little.
In our original video, we shared graphs of relative humidity over several days showing high humidity at night. We used temperature and humidity data from our Govee sensors, which you can see those, and we put them all over everywhere in our camper. Our living room, bedroom, refrigerator, freezer, basement, and the outside. They work very well for what we're doing. And we've always heard that 40 to 60% humidity was where we needed to be indoors. But that's not what we were seeing. Also, when we looked at our graphs, the relative humidity was steadily increasing overnight and was not in the range. But was that actually correct? Actually, no. And here's why.
We're going to get a little nerdy here for a moment, so bear with us.
God, you are such a nerd. Shut up. No wonder you only hang out with boys. Erica? Just the facts.
This is a graph of a single day in our camper. In the morning, it's cool, 68 degrees, but the relative humidity is bouncing between 60 and 70%. As the day progresses, the temp goes up and the humidity goes down. This cycle repeats itself regularly. So what's going on with the humidity? Instead of looking at graphs, we're going to look at this a little differently. Let's say we have a measuring cup full of liquid that represents all the moisture in our camper, and we have two bottles that represent how much water in the air our camper can absorb. On the left is the amount of moisture possible when the camper is at 65 degrees Fahrenheit. On the right is the amount of moisture possible when the camper is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. As we know, warmer air can hold more moisture than cold air, which is why we have different sizes of the bottles. So we're going to pour that same amount of water into each of the bottles. So if we just look at relative humidity, it looks like the 65-degree rig would feel a lot more humid than the one at 80. But in reality, they both feel kind of moist. That's where the dew point comes in. In both of these scenarios, the dew point is the same temperature. In our water bottle example, a dew point of 65 degrees would feel a bit sticky. I updated this chart to show the dew points in June instead of relative humidity. So what does this all mean? Honestly, not much. This shows that the dew points range from the 50s to the 70s, from pleasant to uncomfortable. At least the graph now represents what we were feeling at that time.
So it was good to learn the dew point is a better measure. Bear in mind that we were in North Carolina and Florida. Probably two of the worst case scenarios for the entire month of June. So that was a pretty harsh test.
It's hot, sticky, but it's plenty of shade here. Very hot.
So we had several questions that we were trying to get answered through RecPro, and they corresponded with Houghton to get the correct answers. We provided a video of our installation, and it was confirmed through RecPro that the install was performed correctly.
The second question that we had was regarding short cycling. We confirmed if your unit is short cycling, it can mean anywhere from it's not sized correctly, it's installed incorrectly, or even it could be a faulty unit. To perform a short cycling test, the first step you do is turn on your air conditioner, set it for the lowest temp possible, which is 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and turn your fan speed up to high. The second part is kind of funny. You end up opening up all your windows and your doors. You're trying to see if that air conditioning unit will stay on for an entire hour without cycling.
We performed this test, and it continued to run for that entire hour and literally poured moisture off the roof. The test also confirmed the air conditioning is performing correctly, and it's a correct size for our unit based on their specifications. Purchasing a larger unit will not help this. The larger unit will only get the temperature quicker. It won't affect the humidity. The question we raised again is, so why do we still have a lot of humidity? Well, campers with slides are not well sealed, as you pretty much know. We're at the mercy of the slide-out rubber gaskets. We're the basement air from the basement door being open, the generator access area. You know, there's cooking, showering, and even breathing causes moisture in the air. We don't recommend stop breathing, but you can make sure to crack a window or open a vent while you're cooking or showering. That'll help. When you're not showering or cooking, make sure you reduce the opportunities for outside air to come in. Make sure the fans are closed, and we used a 1/2-inch pipe insulation on the base of our slides to mitigate airflow from wind and stuff like that coming under our slides.
So, after all these conversations, where do we stand? Well...
Sorry, a fly was biting me.
It's still gonna get you right there. Get it!
Get out of here.
So after all these conversations with RecPro, where do we stand? Not any differently than where we were on our first video. We are still going to end up having to use that dehumidifier periodically. Now that we've been going up north, we're traveling back up north, we've definitely used it a lot less, but we have been using it on days, for example, when it's raining. If you do happen to purchase a dehumidifier similar to ours, you do need to remember that the dehumidifier will increase the temperature in your rig. So that will in turn make the air conditioner work harder if you're trying to do those in tandem.
Yeah, maybe we shared a few items that we had figured out that we got wrong, and we wanted to share that with you after our discussions with RecPro. Eco mode, for example, RecPro confirmed that this is not a feature that was implemented. Even though the leaf will turn on a remote, it will not do anything.
The second item is sleep mode. This mode is actually functioning on the unit. It allows the temperature to increase or decrease by about 3.5 degrees over a 2-hour period. It's supposed to help with making your sleep a little bit more comfortable. So if you're in cool mode and you have the sleep mode enabled, it will eventually increase that temperature by about 3 to 4 degrees over a 2-hour period. If you're using the heat pump, it will actually decrease the temperature by 3 to 4 degrees over 2 hours. I'm not honestly sure how this would make me more comfortable, but I think it would be really beneficial if you are off grid and want to conserve a little bit of power.
So the other mode that we found was dry mode functionality. We weren't quite sure about that. We assumed the assumption was it was looking at humidity in some way to keep the rig more comfortable. Dry mode simply is air conditioning mode on low fan speed. The software is focusing on reducing the temperature and is using the fact that lower temperatures naturally reduce the humidities, since the cooler air has less capacity to hold moisture. To enable the dry mode, make sure the temperature is set a few degrees lower than ambient and select the dry mode option. This mode, it is a good automatic method to reduce the temperature and humidity. Being a little more conscious of battery consumption, it's not good if you have high heat and high humidity though. Yep. Like we did in June. So
another mistake that we had was dry mode with the heat pump. I had assumed that that was a possibility to do, and it actually is not the case. Dry mode does not work with the heat pump. It only is on air conditioning mode. So again, if you're in a colder, wet climate, this air conditioner, even with the heat pump installed, will not help you in that situation.
Oh, and also the remote. The battery strength on the remote should not have any effect on the capability of the unit. If the batteries are low, it only could affect your timers, If you have timing set when you want the air conditioner or heat pump to come on or off, if you have that enabled.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up, and what are our final thoughts? So if we had all of this information at the very beginning, would we have gone through all this and be where we are? The answer, I think, is yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. This unit is very well made. It is a lower profile than the other unit that we had, and that helps in particular with some of these truck campers. We need every extra inch as possible, so that was a definite plus on there. It's quieter than our old Dometic by far, which is the main reason we purchased this unit, and is a really big deal as a full-time traveler. It really helps your mentality to be able to talk to one another while it's running. Another point is RecPro really stood by their product. We were having these problems. They communicated with us. They even sent us, for free of charge, a secondary unit because we thought that there was something wrong with it. So they really did well on customer service in that manner. And while we did have to buy this humidifier, I think that might be a better plan going forward, especially in these cold climates. If you're off grid, a dehumidifier is going to be lower battery consumption than the air conditioner. So sometimes having multiple options is the best way to go.
Well, that's it for this.
Yeah, and if you have any other comments about this, definitely mention it below. We'll see if we can try to answer anything you have. Have a great one.
We'll see you on the road.